You are listening to the Sassy and Hatter show. All fictional characters are brought to life for your entertainment and education. Their whimsical debates, zany antics, and occasional moments of stoned brilliance are designed to inform and amuse. We cannot encourage the use of cannabis, and all use of cannabis for the purpose of research has been done by hard-working professionals.
Welcome back, Budlets, to another episode of the Hatter and Sassy Show. Turn up your wireless and lend me your ears. Today we have a show packed full to the brim with an array of exciting adventures. And as usual, I am Hatter, your zany host, and I am joined by...
And I'm Sassy. And today we're going to discuss this month's news, weather, and we'll be joined by the ghostwriter to discuss mental health.
We plan to explore the Christmas black market and, of course, more adventures from the Chronicles of Anoki. Today will be the tragedy of Hades and Bojangles and the Time Cop.
Alright, Hatter, before we get lost in the story, let's get in the haze of White Russian. Let me give you a little history lesson, and we're not just talking about the strain here, we're talking about, potentially, cannabis royalty of genetics.
Cannabis royalty? That better be good, Sassy.
Alright, so, let's start. White Widow is the foundation of the White Russian strain, and it's basically one of the OGs of the cannabis world. Born out of Brazil and South India, White Widow took over the scene in the 1990s. It was on a mission, but it was bred by crossing land races. A Brazilian sativa crossed with a South Indian indica, giving that nice balance of uplifting effects with that solid, relaxing body feeling high. You've probably seen it in coffee shops in Amsterdam or in the media, but it's one of those favourite ones that's heavily cultivated strains and can be found worldwide.
Ah, I've heard of it. The classic is the cannabis equivalent of a rock star, is it not?
Exactly. White Widow is known for its frosty, white resin-covered buds, and it's got a nice earthy aroma with a hint of pine. And as for its effect, it's just got that perfect blend of euphoric and relaxation, making it a go-to for socialising, creativity, or just chilling out on the couch and binging whatever you're streaming, innit?
I get it now, but what's the deal with AK-47? I'm picturing some heavy-hitting strain like the cannabis version of Rambo, but with furred boots and, I don't know, less tan.
You think right, but here's the twist. The AK-47 is actually a bit of a misdemeanor. It's not actually as aggressive as it sounds. It's a hybrid of Colombian, Mexican, Thai, and Afghani landrace strains, and it was bred to be a smoother, more balancing high. AK-47 took its namesake because of its potency, but overwhelmingly so, it's like a stealthy assassin. It's known for its pungent aroma and sweet, earthy taste, and it gives you a relaxed yet cerebral buzz, perfect to complement the White Widow's mellow vibes.
Sounds like the AK-47's got some surprises up its sleeve. So, considering the two, what does that create?
Well, White Russian, of course, is the best of both worlds. It's got White Widow's euphoric social effects and AK-47's balanced, smooth high. And when they come together, it gives you a strain that's perfect for creative sessions, sparking with a little bit of energy without leaving you stuck in the couch lock. Plus, it's got that sweet, earthy flavour with hints of pine, spice, and a tiny bit of creaminess. It's kind of like a decent dessert, but for your brain.
Sounds like the ultimate strain for a party, or maybe just chilling with good company. But what about the history? You okay?
No.
I think we might have just lost Sassy.
The assassin.
Oh dear. Well, White Widow has been a household name for decades. White Russian came out in the late 90s and immediately made waves in the cannabis community. It gained popularity fast, especially in the competition scene, winning high marks of both potency and balanced efforts. It's the kind of strain that puts you in a good mood without overwhelming your senses. Plus, it's got that killer reputation just for being the perfect mix of spark and chill vibes. A true crowd pleaser. And Sassy, if it's as smooth as you say, or as smooth as your cough is, I might just have to get you to track some down for me.
Oh, it's a classic. It has a tickle, but just make sure you get it from a trusted source. You wouldn't want a knockoff version of a legend, am I right?
Absolutely not. And need of top shelves for this one, or the best that you can find. Well, thanks for the history lesson, Sassy. I feel like I've just took a deep dive into cannabis history.
Time for the news.
Alright then, let's get into it. The US election, crypto and cannabis policies are hanging in the balance. And it's like watching someone trying to herd cats.
Herding cats. Indeed. What the Yanks do affects everyone, Hatter, especially us with crypto and cannabis. We're all tuned in, wondering if this election could make or break our favourite industries.
Exactly. Look out for the cannabis industry over there. It's like a wild west. Some states treat it like gold and others treat it like plutonium. But the feds, if they make it legal, the entire industry could finally well go mainstream.
And let's be real, mate. The federal legalization isn't just about cannabis lovers wanting a safer toke. It's potentially a billion-dollar industry, and they're holding back. Think of the revenue, and let's not ignore banking access to US companies while they're still paying cash like it's in the 1920s or something.
Right, Sassy. Imagine trying to operate a fully legitimate business without the basic banking services. It's absurd. The minute the feds want to give the green light, it'll be goodbye to the black market. Dealers, they already exist, but with legalization, there'll just be less demand for the shady stuff.
True, and let's take it back to crypto for a sec. When it comes to crypto, America has this love-hate relationship. They talk about innovation on one hand and then regulation on the other hand. Republicans tend to be less crypto, while Democrats have this urge to rein it in. It's no wonder why the market on is like a roller coaster, especially now with Trump back in charge with promises to make crypto mainstream, calling for freedom in space and less red tape. This could be a serious game changer, and it's already affecting our market.
And if he follows through, it could mean clearer rules for crypto and maybe some leeway for blockchain innovation. Either way, Trump's calling for the US to stay competitive on the global front, but it's risky. Since we've seen how unregulated crypto can spiral, the cannabis industry, crypto might end up being their saver if things stay murkily legal. These industries are tied together, decentralized by finances and decentralized by cannabis markets. Crypto could be the unofficial backbone of the global cannabis trading if federal policies continue dragging their heels. There's something poetical about that.
You know what they say, green light means go. But speaking of policies dragging their heels, let's chat about the current black market. Legalizing cannabis wouldn't just affect users, it would bring accountability and make it safer. Think about it, Hatter. All the horror stories of dodgy edibles and laced strains of chemicals is because people are forced to go underground and find Dodgy Dave.
Absolutely. Legalization brings regulation, and regulation means safer access. That's where organizations like Smoke Easy come in. They've had a chance to shape policy from the inside, helping create a system that prioritizes safe, affordable access.
And how many times have we seen scandals over black market busts? Even here in the UK, there's always news of cannabis with mystery ingredients making its rounds. But imagine you had the choice to buy a product that's actually been tested with potency and effects that you're after without any of the nasty surprises.
Yes, and on that note, let's have a talk about misinformation. You've got the tabloids screaming psychosis, but only in the UK. But there's evidence that there's clearly in the favour of medical cannabis as a treatment for various conditions, mental health included. but more on those topics of psychosis in cannabis later.
So here is the big question. Hatter. Does the US election have the guts to start making a green revolution, or will we see more of the same? It's high time we see some major policy shifts.
Couldn't agree more. We're in this for the long game, but the revolution has to start somewhere. Maybe it's in the US, or maybe it's closer to home. Either way, it's all eyes on green. However, in the world of news, shall we say, a unique geopolitical climate. So, Hatter, here we are with the US, well, with, shall we say, with a rather eccentric leader running the show again, but just in time to throw his hat into NATO's defence strategies, no less. And let's be real, he's the kind of bloke that thinks the diplomacy deal is a simple high-stakes real estate deal. And now he's at the helm of NATO's defence planning. What could possibly go wrong, huh?
Right, it's like giving a raccoon the keys to Fort Knox and expecting it to keep things secure. Meanwhile, we've got a British king who's rumoured to, let's say, be a fan of herbal supplements. And in January, remember, he's tested his new laser cannon. They're calling it Dragonfire. It's a death laser, but it's only for missile defence because shooting a person would be considered a war crime. And you thought Star Wars was just a movie.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine that conversation at Buckingham Palace. Your Majesty, how would you like to wield your very own death ray? And then, meanwhile, you hear Starmer, who didn't exactly get the job because he's the People's Choice Award, but more of the leftover of the last Prime Minister, Richie Sunak, who tanked the economy into it practically deflated.
Oh, Europe's doing its best to look the other way, pretending that a war hasn't already started. Germany and Canada are oddly silent on this one. It's almost like they're hiding something under the covers and hoping no one notices. I suspect any answers from them might be related to growing weed.
And who's across the border in Russia? We've got a mad bear that's practically running on empty, troops are thinning faster than a receding hairline, and there's no stopping that old bear. He's clawing and scrapping at every last little bit he can find.
What a lineup. A US leader who plays world events like the reality TV, a king with a laser, and a prime minister by default, and the Europe trying to sidestep a war that's already on its doorstep, and it's like the world is already one big, badly scripted soap opera. Who's writing this shit?
Well, one thing's for sure, Sassy, this isn't your average news cycle. And there we are, watching it all unfold, like popcorn in the hand. Wondering if maybe someone, somewhere, might come to their senses. But until then, folks, buckle up and brace for more of the same.
Placeholder for intro music.
In the heart of Exeter's urban jungle, nestled among the bustling streets and towering student accommodation blocks, lies a hidden oasis of wonder. Loudmouth. Unlike any other head shop, it's a sanctuary for those seeking the rare, the remarkable, and the truly unique glassware and grinders. At Loudmouth, we witness an extraordinary collection of bongs crafted with precision akin to that of the hummingbird's nest. Glassware as intricate as coral, forged by artisans revered by enthusiasts across the land. And for the rolling aficionados, raw ethereal papers so fine they're often mistaken for the delicate wings of a butterfly. This, dear listener, is the place where curiosity thrives and where passion is rewarded. For those daring to delve beyond the extraordinary, Loudmouth stands as a beacon in a refuge where every item tells a tale and every visit is an adventure. So venture forth, brave explorer, and discover Loudmouth, because sometimes even the quietest corners we find the wildest things. And now for the weather.
We've got a storm in our teacup, or rather, tempest named Bert. Isn't that right, Sassy?
Aye, Bert's been blowing a proper hoolie out there, dumping a wet, frosty mess all over the UK. But tell me, Hatter, What kind of name is Bert for a storm? Sounds more like a bloke down the pub who I'd owe a pint.
True. Bert's no joke. This trap has stirred up quite the chaos, from gushing floods to ghastly winds strong enough to knock your hat off. Meanwhile, in the more dramatic corners of the UK, snow blanketed the streets, causing travel chaos. The Met Office says this is just the start. This early snow could be a signal, especially for a cold winter, maybe even one for the history books.
Now, there's a cheery thought. It's like nature decided to have Christmas early, minus the carols and mince pies. But seriously, early snow can disrupt everything: transport, farming and energy supplies. And in Devon, the melting snow and heavy rain could mean floods if there's snow in the coming days or weeks. Bert really settled in the stage for winter misery.
Absolutely, and it highlights how unprepared we often are.
True, storms like Bert remind us of climate change and its growing impact. From more frequent storms, unpredictable weather, it's all connected. The early snow could be a warning of harsher winters ahead. So let's get ready, stock up on salt, blankets, and maybe a flask of something warming, eh?
Speaking of warming things up, black market Christmas fairs might be the new answer. Bert or no Bert, we still find festive cheer. But even if we have to trade the salt for baubles.
That's right. But let's keep an eye on the weather and remember, take care out there, folks. Storm Bert packed a punch and winter has just begun. Stay safe, stay dry, and maybe keep that kettle handy. Now it's time for a mental health break. Hello, dear listener, it's me, Ghost, here, stepping out of the writer's room to chat to you a moment about something that affects a lot of us this time of year. Seasonal affective disorder, or SAD. If you're feeling a bit off, or maybe a bit tired, unmotivated, or just downright blue, you're not alone. SAD is a type of depression triggered by shorter days and lower light levels in autumn and winter. It's not just a case of winter blues, it's a recognised mental health condition. You may know it as seasonal depressive disorder. What causes it? Well, reduced sunlight can mess with your body's internal clock and decrease serotonin levels, a chemical that regulates the mood. On top of that, it can boost melatonin, which is why you might feel sluggish or sleepy all the time. If this resonates with you, here are some solutions that may work for you. Get outside, even on the gloomy days. Natural light can make the difference. Stay active. Exercise isn't just for the body, it is a game changer for your mind too. Seek support. Don't hesitate to speak to your doctor or your therapist if you're struggling. In the UK, organisations like Mind, you can go to mind.org.uk, and Samaritans, that's 116123, here for you, and you can also explore NHS talking therapies for free support. And remember, it's okay to not be okay. What matters is taking the first few steps towards feeling better. You've got this, and remember, you're not alone, and I hope you're having a great day, because you deserve it. Now to check up on Sassy and Hatter while they wander around the Black Christmas Market. The Black Christmas Market. The air is thick, the scent of spice, pine needles, and something more illicit hangs in the air. Stalls glow with dim fairy lights, and the sound of haggling fills the crisp night air. Sassy and Hatter are crouched behind a stall covered in glistening baubles and handmade trinkets. They're dressed for the occasion, Sassy in their all-black trench hoodie and cap, and Hatter in her velvet jacket, looking completely out of place in this underground market.
I must say, Sassy, I've always known you to be resourceful, but salt piracy, really, is this what you call a noble profession these days?
Oh, come on, Hatter, you know as well as I do. The salt is the true currency of the seas. Forget gold, forget gems. Salt is power. It's the lifeblood of every kitchen and every industry. In those days, you couldn't move a ship without bumping into a pirate who was trying to claim the salt trade for themselves.
Salt piracy. You'll never cease to amaze me. Please do enlighten me. How does one actually become a salt pirate? I imagine it's a bit like stealing sugar, but only of more grit.
Oh, it's far more than that. Salt has history, my friend. It's been fought over for centuries. I was out there navigating the great salt marshes off the coast of the South Sea. Picture it. The sun setting over the horizon. The water glowing red like some scene out of a horror movie. There I was, the captain of the salty trolley, with a crew of, misfits and washed-up sailors. We had barrels of salt stacked up high, far too much just to be selling little packets to the local vendors.
Hold on a minute. You're telling me you are the captain of a ship, in charge of a ragtag crew, all for salt?
Exactly. It wasn't just any salt, Hatter. We had the good stuff, the rare, hand-harvested road salt that could only be found in certain yellow caskets. The stuff just turned ordinary stew into a banquet that could make the difference between life or death in a drought. Pirates just don't steal for riches. Oh no, they take what others can't from their hands, and the salt, it was converted to everyone. The traders, the kingdom suppliers, you name it. We're all scrambling for it, but none daring to enter our waters.
So you're the Robin Hood of salt, stealing from the rich and, giving to yourself, I suppose?
More like redistributing the wealth. Hatter, come on, everyone needs it. Food preservation, curing meats, even medicine in some cases is essential. There were other pirates, of course. The salty salmons who like to poach off shipments, trying to steal prize loads, but they never have the right salt recipe to make the perfect brine for pickled herring now, do they?
Pickled herring, you say? Now that's truly a skill. I didn't realize you were so culinary.
You would be surprised how useful good brine can be. There's nothing quite like a salted herring to bark your way through the less savoury markets of the world, or to cut down the mightiest tree in the woods. And of course, there was the green sea flowers. The real treasure. It could cure wounds, it could make meat tender, and apparently, it could change a person's entire mood. Imagine the power, Hatter, and the ability not just to season food, but to season life itself.
Oh yes, seasoning life. But tell me, Sassy, how exactly did the salt piracy trade work? You didn't just raid some poor unsuspecting merchant's cart, did you?
Oh, no. It was much more refined than all of that. You had to plan your raids with precision. You had to get your hand on the maps, the best routes for salt smuggling, and we always operated under the cover of heavy fog or a salt storm. Nothing like a good proper storm to mask your movements in the eye of the Navy at bay. But we didn't always raid ships, Sometimes we had to make deals, exchange salt for things, that we could use for trade.
Anyway, that's a bit vague, don't you think? And exactly did you trade the salt from aside for shiny baubles?
Oh, the usual swords, emeralds, gold, magic amulets, weed. The best part of being a salt pirate would sneak into the high-class markets and sell off the salt as luxury crystals, and just walk away from the Christmas with Christmas ornaments like this one. But they had no clue what they were buying. It's just all about the art of the trade.
I can believe it. A glowing goose for a barrel of salt. How did you get away with it?
Oh, Hatter, my dear, it's all about confidence. You got to sell the story.
I see. So you'll be here with me trading salt for Christmas trinkets. Wait, you're the one that set all of this up, aren't you?
Maybe. But here's the kicker. Those Christmas trinkets will be worth a fortune once the festive season ends. But hey, if I had a nickel for every Christmas ball I traded for a barrel of salt, I'd probably have like 2 nickels right now.
Always scheming, always planning. I can't keep up with you, Sassy. But I'll say this. There is one thing I've learned from you. And that's there's always more than one way to make a profit in this world. Even if that does involve a bit of salt piracy.
Exactly, Hatter. Salt pirates make the best entrepreneurs. Just remember, it's not just about what you steal, it's about how you sell it. And trust me, nothing goes better with the festive season than a little salt of the earth charm. Now for the Chronicles of Anoki with Hatter. The Tragedy of Hades.
Tonight, dear listener, we venture into the depths of the realm where light dares not tread, into the heart of the underworld itself, to meet a king whose soul is as cold as the dark as the land he rules. And this is the tale of Hades, a god bound by love, cursed by desire, and tormented by the very forces he commands. A tale that has echoed through the ages. Long before the gods of Olympus stood proud on their mountain, before Zeus ever cast his thunderbolts, before Apollo ever rose, from the beginning there was darkness, and Hades was its king. It was the age of the great Titans, their reign unchallenged. Beneath their seat, their own children stirred, destined to bring them low. Kronos, the great Titan, had swallowed his own children whole, fearing the prophecy that one of them would overthrow him. But in time, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades rose, breaking free from their father's grasp. Hades, the elder son, was given dominion over the dark realms of the underworld, a place where the light of life never touched, where souls go to be judged, and where time itself loses its meaning. It was in the age of the great Titans, their reign unchallenged. Beneath their feet was their own children, destined to bring them down. Kronos, the great Titan, swallowed his own children whole, fearing the prophecy that one of them would overthrow him. But in time, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades rose, breaking free from their father's grasp. Hades, the eldest, was given domain over the dark realms of the underworld, a place where light of life never touched, where souls go to be judged, and where time itself loses all meaning. But as time went on, Hades, the ruler of the dead, found himself burdened by a different kind of weight. The crushing loneliness of ruling a kingdom devoid of life. His brothers, Zeus and Poseidon, revelled in their domains, each surrounded by wealth and adulation, while Hades watched from the shadows of his own heart. He was a king without a queen, a ruler without a subject worthy of his throne. And then, one day, the earth trembled. The spring flowers bloomed, righteous in colour. The scent of life filled the air. Persephone, daughter of Demeter, was dancing in the meadows, her laughter as pure as the summer breeze. She was the very embodiment of life, of light, and of warmth. But there are forces in the dark that do not know warmth, nor mercy, and when Hades saw Persephone, he knew deep in his heart that she was his salvation. He was longing for her, but was not born of love, but of desperation. For what is a king to do when he has conquered all, but yearned for something that cannot be possessed. And so, in the dead of night, Hades used his powers of earth, and tore open the ground beneath Persepone's feet. The meadow split in two, and from the chasm below he emerged, dark and terrible like the storm of shadows. With a roar, he took the very fabric of the world and seized Persepone, carrying her into his domain. Ah, how the mighty have bound by their own desires. Hades believed he had won, but Persepone's sorrow filled the halls with silence and gnawed at him. She was his queen, but she was also his prisoner, and he looked into her eyes and saw not a woman who loved him, but who longed for the light of the world above. What use is a throne if it's not shared to the one you desire most? What is power when nothing else is but isolation? And as the seasons turned, Persepone's mother felt the loss of her daughter like a wound to her very soul. The crops withered and died, the earth became barren. The gods could not ignore the plight of the world, and so Zeus intervened. He demanded compromise. Persepone would return to the world of the living, but only for part of the year. For every autumn and winter she would return to the underworld, and for every spring and summer she would walk among the living. Thus the cycle began, the eternal dance between life and death. Persepone would leave Hades, and the earth would bloom once more. But she returned, so the world would fall silent as winter would creep in across the land. Hades thought he ruled the dead. Was he never truly free? And so, every year, the same sorrow would return, as Persepone would be torn from him once more. The king of the dead cannot even possess his queen. But does not Hades in his own way embody the soul? Who among us does not long for that which they cannot have? Who among us has not held captive from their own desires? He tells a tale that is not just one of the gods, but is a tale of every soul, cursed to want, cursed to need. For we, like Hades, must face the cold void of our own hearts. And so, dear listener, remember this. As you walk down the path of life, even in the deepest of shadows, there is always a flicker of light. But no matter how hard we try, some things we cannot possess. And perhaps in that there is something tragic, but also beautiful.
And now for something completely different. Bojangles and the Time Cop.
Next, dear listeners, to the tale of Bojangles and the Time Cop, an intergalactic epic that challenges the limits of space, time, and a good taste in writing. Today we explore the cosmos of the godly transformation. You see, when one gains a piece of a divine being, it opens an access to a powerful moment of pure magic, or wish. But there's a warning. Choose those words carefully, as it could drive the unprepared to go into madness.
Lucky for me, I was a mere dog to begin with.
The wish can be amplified, either by amassing followers, or, get this, from stealing it from another. Thus, many a cosmic war has raged, ultimately giving rise to the structured domains of today's gods. 12 primary domains, 40 subdomains, all overseen by time itself.
I won the subdomain trickery of Loki last month when I bested him in a duel. Today, I'm going to tell you about the time I got arrested.
The alchemy lab shelves are stacked with jars of swirling liquids, ancient scrolls, and strange apparatuses bubbling and fizzing. Magnus, the seasoned god of arcane, with a serious demeanour, is engrossed in his work, meticulously mixing ingredients. He focuses in an intense as he hovers over a series of floating symbols, his face lit by a soft flickering glow of magic runes. In strolls Bojangles, in a very definition of a thorn in any cosmic being's side, especially for Magnus. He moves with a unrelenting swagger, radiating a barely contained chaos as he observes Magnus from afar. A mischievous smirk slowly spreads across his face. With the dramatic stretch, Bojangles hops himself onto a shelf, just out of Magnus's immediate line of sight, watching intently as the god focuses on his alchemical experiences.
Hey Archie, you're looking as lively as a dead star today.
Magnus's shoulders stiffen slightly, but he keeps his gaze locked on the bubbling mixture in front of him, unwilling to give Bojangles the satisfaction of a reaction. But there's a moment of pause, a small crack in his patience, already starting to form.
And for the love of the divine, stop calling me Archie.
Bojangles rolled his eyes in exasperation. Boredom and hopes rolled down the shelf. Strolling up to Magnus's workspace as if he owned the place, he leans against the table, paws crossed, a curious glint in his eyes as he pushes a small vial of iridescent liquid, inspecting it like a curious child.
Sure thing, Archie. I've got a question though. Big metaphysical ones, like, why are stars so fucking hot, and why can't I lick one?
Magnus visibly twitches, his patience wearing thinner by the second. He tries to ignore Bojangles, focusing on the swirling liquid in his cauldron, which starts bubbling erratically as Bojangles keeps on relentless prodding. Bojangles, fully aware of his effect as he's having, grins wider.
And you know, I was just wondering, why is it when you mix two things together, do they always make something fucking weird? Like, why can't it just be the fucking same?
Magnus's composure begins to crack. His movement becomes sharper. Each action becomes a bit more aggressive than the last as he stirs the concoction.
You know the levels of cosmic wisdom Bojangles requires restraint and...
Bojangles, seeming oblivious to Magnus's growing irritation, leans closer, poking at a delicate glass beaker on the edge of a table, and then with a push of his paw, making it wobble dangerously.
Restraint. Fucking overrated. I'm more of see what the fuck kind of happens kind of dog. Oh, is this beaker important?
The beaker tips precariously, and Magnus lunges forward, barely catching it before it shatters. The interruption is too much, though he snaps, whirling around to face Bojangles with an expression of pure exasperation.
Bojangles, don't you have anything better to do? No wonder why you got V killed.
A profound silence falls over the lab. The impact of Magnus's words lands like a physical blow. The flippant energy draining from Bojangles as he stands there, frozen, his grin slowly fading, and for a split second, his unusual, unshakable confidence falters, and a glimmer of hurt flashes in his eyes.
That was below the belt. Real below the belt.
Magnus's eyes widen as if he realized the weight of his own words. For a second too late, he stands speechless, watching as Bojangles retreats a few steps, before his usual bravado is now replaced with a rare, vulnerable stillness. The god reaches out to say something, but before he can utter another word, Bojangles wiggles his nose and disappears into a swirl of purple and blue sparks, leaving Magnus alone in a suddenly empty lab.
Oh shit.
Yeah. That stung a bit, not gonna lie. But look, here's the fucking deal. Before all this magical nonsense, I was just a regular mutt belonging to a mad mage called V. They always would experiment with these fancy, dangerous spells, and one day, one of their experiments went sideways, big time. You see, I got hit with this, insane bolt of energy. Well, let's just say it changed me. And when the dust settled, V was gone. And Magnus, he found me in the ruins of that tower. I guess in his eyes that makes me the cause, but it's not as simple as that. Nothing ever fucking is.
The scene shifts back to Magnus, still alone in his alchemy lab. The hum of the cosmic energy, a faint reminder of the chaos that fills space only moments ago. His hand runs over his face, clearly resting with regret. Meanwhile, Bojangles now stands in a grand, dimly lit temple, the vast emptiness echoing around him, and at the far end of the room an intricately carved throne sits, empty, casting long shadows across a marble floor. Bojangles strides forward, uncharacteristically quiet, and then flops down on the throne as if it were his own personal lounge.
Alright, I want no magic ear scritches here today. I just need to do this. Centimeter, hear me out. I get it right. This time. I want to see V again.
There was no response, only stillness in the empty temple. But then, as if in an answer, a skeletal hand materializes from the darkness, pouring a shimmery, silvery liquid into a crystal bowl. Bojangles watches, puzzled and intrigued as he approaches and peers into the bowl. The second hand materializes, giving Bojangles ethereal ear scratches.
Another vague vision. Typical god. Always fucking cryptic.
But something in the liquid called to him. A flash, a memory, a glimpse of what might have been. With a low growl of frustration, he turned away, knocking over the bowl, sending it crashing onto the floor, shattering, breaking the silence. The hope in his eyes already dimming.
Much for divine intervention. If I wanted real answers, I have to take matters into my own fucking paws.
Bojangles stands in the vast emptiness of space. A floating black hole no larger than a tennis ball, spinning and pulsating before him. He squints at it, wagging his tail in anticipation. He stands like a dog about to tackle his chew toy. In the distance, the stars lazily drift, unaware of the chaos that is about to unfold. Bojangles sniffs the black hole, circling it cautiously, as he mutters to himself, excitement bubbling up as he seizes up the swirling abyss. And then, with a mischievous grin, he takes a deep breath and chomps down. The universe itself seems to inhale and exhale as Bojangles' teeth sink into the black hole. A strange echoing of a crunch fills the space, reverberating across galaxies. The cosmos ripples like a disturbed pond, and then, with one mighty bite, Bojangles tore open the fabric of space-time, hurling him through a pivotal historical events, rearranging cosmic furnitures as he went. Belling lights and cosmic dust whip around Bojangles as he plummets through the time mainstream, finally landing with a soft thud on a marble floor. In an ancient Rome Senate chamber, he shakes his head off, looking up to no other than Julius Caesar, surrounded by a ring of senators, daggers drawn, eyes cold. And so, the dauntless time-hopping hound arrives at one of history's most infamous moments, the Ides of March.
What in the name of Jupiter is this creature?
Bojangles stares back at Julius Caesar with wide eyes, letting out a small bark. Huh? and then senses the tension with no clue of what he's about to stumble into. Seized by the moment of inspiration, he leaps up, sending Caesar stumbling backwards, throwing off the entire carefully orchestrated scene. The senators, mid-lunge, freeze, unsure of how to proceed, with Caesar's sprawl unceremoniously on the floor, his toga now askew, and his dignity in shambles. And thus, in one unexpected moment, Bojangles altered one of history's most pivotal events, sparing Julius Caesar, causing the bewildered senators to question their entire plot. A strange, otherworldly portal begins to open up behind Bojangles, ready to pull him out of the chaos he's created. But just as he's about to disappear, the Ides of March would go down in history, not as the day of Caesar's doom, but the day a mysterious dog baffled Rome and threw fate off its course. Bojangles is then whisked away, tumbling through time once again. The senators fade, and the scene transitions to a new setting where Bojangles lands in a room filled with chalkboards and equations. Einstein is squinting at him in confusion.
E equals MC. Who lets this dog in here?
The great Albert Einstein, meeting the match of the cosmic canine with unquestionable intentions. Bojangles trots over to the chalkboard with mischievous glint in his eye, taps his paw in the middle of Einstein's scribbles, and promptly erases half the equation in a casual swipe, leaving behind an illegible scramble of symbols and shapes. Einstein's jaw drops as he examines the new symbols, which seem to suggest relativity, but backwards.
This changes everything. Relativity, but backwards. And maybe upside down. It's all relative.
Einstein leans in, squinting, as he contemplates the absurd equation that Bojangles has left him. He starts muttering theories and alternative timelines, and backwards muttering, scribbling furiously as he tries to decipher that he can only a brainchild of a cosmic mastermind, or a bored dog with a perchance of chaos. And thus Albert Einstein would forever second-guess the nature of reality and wonder if his greatest revolution was inspired by a mysterious dog who wandered in unannounced. As Einstein scratches his head, Bojangles fills a familiar pool as he's whisked through another portal. Just as the scene dissolves, he lands in a sterile, futuristic lab with the smell of vinegar in the air, surrounded by an array of pickle jars stacked floor to ceiling. Bojangles sniffs curiously at the jars, tilting his head as he watches two scientists in white coats argue over the quality of brine. Feeling a bit peckish, he swipes at one of the jars, chomping through the lid and devouring the pickles in one gulp.
Wait, no, he's tampering with the brine ratios.
This could stabilize the entire pickle economy.
And so, Bojangles unwittingly triggered the Great Pickle Crisis of 2043, causing nationwide shortages of pickles and an overabundance of relish that society was not simply prepared for. Bojangles, blissfully unaware of his chaos in his wake, continued to barrel through time, colours, swirls, and sounds all around him, in the cosmic maelstrom. As he somersaults through echops, tumbling through moments he had long forgotten, or ones he hadn't even been around for in the first place.
So I might have bent a few key moments here, there. It's not like time will notice.
He spins forward through the time stream, and then the scene begins to blur, signalling that Bojangles' little cosmic snack had spiraled into something little more than he anticipated. Bojangles lands back in V's lab just before the fatal accident that started it all. He was there, barely with time to shake off the dust as suddenly, with a burst of dramatic flair, Dick Hooker, time enforcer, appears in the doorway. Hooker looks like he stepped right out of a 1980s cop show, sunglasses, and a giant beaming badge and bomber jacket that looks 3 sizes too big for him. He raises his eyebrow, surveying the scene with an exaggerated sneer.
Bo! Jangles, you mangy time-wrapping mutt. You've been causing more cosmic ruckus than a black hole in a bowling alley. It's high time I took you in for time crimes.
Time Enforcer? Really? What are you, a low-budget Marvel reject? Let me guess, Detective Rabbit. You're the one with the time variance authority. How lazy is this fucking script?
Authority? Ha! I don't take orders from anyone, especially not from some interdimensional pencil pushers. The name's Hooker. Dick Hooker. And I've been busting time-warping criminals since before your wrinkle twinkle in this time continuum.
Enter Dick Hooker, the most intense, over-the-top enforcer, this side of the cosmos. Every glance and every glare and every sentence is a monologue. Bojangles snorts, dismissing Hooker's dramatic entrance as he starts sniffing around V's lab, clearly uninterested at Hooker's blustering. This, of course, only infuriates Hooker more.
You're not taking me seriously, pup. Time isn't some sandbox for you to pour around in. You're looking at a mess of charges. Here, disturbing temporal peace, fracturing historical fabric, and oh yes, violating the Sacred Continuum Act of 3004.
Oh no, officer, not the Sacred Continuum Act. Next thing you'll tell me I broke the space-time code of ethics and I need to put me post-bail for some cosmic credits or something.
Oh, Bojangles, our hero, appears unfazed by the gravity of his crimes. But little does he know, Hooker isn't one to be toyed with. Hooker suddenly pulls out his oversized gleaming weapon that looks something between a taser and a laser cannon. He pokes it dramatically at Bojangles, and his face contorted with serious scowl.
You've been playing with history, pup, and it ends now. One zap of my time dispute of 5,000 and I'll send your scruffy hide back to the far side of oblivion. But I'll give you one chance. Either come with me quietly, or we'll tango right here, right now.
I do love a good tango. And cue the music.
They lunge at each other, setting off a chaotic slapstick battle that sends beakers shattering and alchemical ingredients exploding in a rainbow of colours. Bojangles bounces off shelves, swiping at Hooker with his paws, while Hooker swings wildly with his temporal disputer. In a scuffle, Hooker accidentally fires the shot that hits the original Bojangles from his timeline, interrupting V's experiment. No explosion, just the light and a thud on the floor. Suddenly, everything freezes around them, except for Dick and Bojangles. Both of them look around, confused, as the lab stands still, glowing with an eerie blue light.
What happened? Did I just undo time itself?
Whoops, looks like someone's not as a time enforcer extraordinaire as he thought he was.
Don't get cocky, furball. You may have slipped through my fingers this time, but you're getting the full force of my time reconciliation unit. And that's not just a promise. That's an intergalactic guarantee.
And thus, Bojangles narrowly escapes his fate, leaving only an overdramatic time cop Hooker feeling proud. But for now, our timelines are safe. Or are they?
Bojangles, you are under arrest for 3,742 violations of the Temporal Protocol. You'll be detained in time jail, where each second is equivalent to 10,000 years in real time.
But in Canada, I say it's not a war crime the first time. I want my lawyer, where is he? And I want him to be an iguana named Pete.
Dick receives a phone call, mid-arrest. Who could it be?
What? A verbal warning? Are you serious? Fine.
Angrily, Dick hangs up and turns to Bojangles, clearly annoyed.
You get up with a verbal warning, but try this again, and you'll be facing all 3,742 counts as well as the full force of my time reconciliation unit.
Sure thing, pal. Say, mind if I nibble on a black hole one more time?
And so, Bojangles found himself in time jail. A prison beyond time itself, where each time second stretches into a millennia, armed with tartan bed and a well-worn tennis ball, and a slowly glowing correction of himself. The original Bojangles, Bojangles Prime, lounges on a tartan bed, rolling dice with his first magical clone, Bojangles number 1. Suddenly, a portal opens in the corner, crackling with cosmic energy, and out steps another Bojangles, disorientated and immediately irritated.
Oh, great. Just what I needed. Another me. What am I here for this time?
A booming, disembodied voice fills the cell.
Hi, Bojangles number 3. You are being held in time jail while we investigate allegations of reversed relativity. Reverse relativity? I knew I was onto something back when Einstein went on in the lab. I didn't think he would notice. Hey, new guy. Not to mention, it's not so bad here. We got D&D nights every Thursday, which is, well, every day. Technically, since time here is meaningless. Fine, but I'm here because I accidentally gave Caesar stage directions while finding a complaint.
As the Bojangles clones multiplied with each time crime, and so did the roster of players in the endless tabletop campaign. When they began the solitary confinement, it has now become a crowded party. The 3 Bojangles sit around the cosmic board game, rolling dice and arguing over the rules as they plot a fantastical escape, or perhaps just another escape into to build something new.
Nice one, Julius Bojangles. That's a critical hit. You dealt 420 points of damage. How do you want to do this?
And that's all from Bojangles today. But before we wrap up, let's look at last month's riddle. Last month's riddle was a tricky one, with very few correct submissions. For a reminder, it was: I am a choice, a promise, a path you'll choose. In tasks and in passions, I never refuse. With heart and with time, I give all that I can. In pursuit of a dream, I become more than a man. No fleeting or fickle, I stand by my vow, to nature and to foster, to push and to plough. For those that took the time will understand the answer was to be determined. For this month's riddle, I am a tiny world encased in glass. Shake me gently, watch the storm amass. A flurry of frost and swirling haze, trapped in a loop of enchanted days. I am a chill companion for those who took, a frosty vibe for those mellow folk. What am I with my serene, snowy abode?
And with that, we'll catch you next time for our Christmas special. And if I can edit it on time, I'll have it done for Christmas Eve. Bye-bye. Remember to like, subscribe, and all that bullshit.